Welcome to the Senior View. Tonight's topic is going to be something very interesting and very supportive to you for those that are caretaking for somebody. The subject will be caretaking with compassion and sharing with others. Our guest tonight will be Joyce Rom, an outreach worker from the Senior Center, and we have Patricia Sodawa, who's a volunteer at the Senior Center and who does wonderful, wonderful work for the Senior Center, and she's just great. And but they're interested in starting a group, which I believe begins in April, and they will tell you all about the information, the time and where. And I think you're going to find this very supportive. So tell me something. How did this start, of the idea of having a caregiver support group?
Well, at the Senior Center, I suspect Pat would agree with me, there's a lot of caregivers that we know. And through the outreach department, I get a lot of calls, and I've met up with a lot of caregivers of seniors in the community. And we thought together that it was a good group to start. As far as I know, we've never actually had a caregiver support group officially at the Hopkinton Senior Center. And Pat's an ex-caregiver to her husband. She might want to speak on that a bit. And Pat's very interested in the happenings and the doings in the center. And we had a casual conversation and did some training together at the Alzheimer's Association, even though our caregiver group won't necessarily be specifically for individuals that have memory loss, but that's where we both went for some training. And we're looking forward to starting it April 20th, Thursdays. It's going to be ongoing every Thursday for the month, so it's just monthly from 10:30 to 11:30, starting April 20th.
I see. And what do you hope to achieve as this group comes together? When somebody walks in brand new, how do you feel about that, Pat?
Well, as Joyce said, I've become aware through my time at the Senior Center that there are individuals that I've identified through conversations that are caregivers. And they're general caregivers. Some of them are caregivers for people who have dementia. And caregiving is a difficult job, but when you have dementia involved in it, it is more difficult and more challenging. So this was kind of a dream that Joyce and I had of starting a support group to help these people in their caregiving journey, to help them with stress, with how to talk to their loved ones, how to get help from various agencies, where Joyce would be a help with that because she's an outreach worker. We just had this dream, and so we went to the Alzheimer's Association and took a facilitator course, so we are connected with the Alzheimer's Association. There are certain benefits that we have with this association. We have guest speakers that come. We have the ability to offer the caregivers a 24/7 hotline where they can go to get information about caregiving, as well as just to talk. Sometimes when you're a caregiver, you're overwhelmed, you're frustrated, you're angry, you just don't know where to turn. So this offers them an ability to get some help. I started with the support groups when my husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And in the beginning, I thought I could do the job myself. I thought I didn't need any help. I didn't need any interference from anyone. I could do this job. And as well as the doctors were telling me, there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to do the job. Well, I said, no, this is never going to happen. I can do this. Well, as caregiving progressed, I realized that I couldn't do the job myself, that I was stressed, that I wasn't sleeping, that I wasn't eating, that I lost my socialization with my friends. Maybe I wasn't able to go to church like I wanted to. So someone suggested to me a support group. Well, I was afraid to go because I was afraid to open up in front of this group and tell them what my journey was like. I was afraid to do it. But one day, when caregiving became so difficult, that I just realized I couldn't do this job anymore. So it became necessary for me to put my husband in a facility. And now he was in a facility, my caregiving changed. I still was a caregiver, but in a different capacity. So now I had a little bit more time on my hands, and I thought, I'm going to go see what these support groups are all about. So I went, and I was so surprised because it was such a welcoming atmosphere. I was able to sit down, and I was able to tell my story. And people listened, and they became aware that I had some problems that I was having trouble dealing with. Well, when you're in a support group, you're among people who have the same problems that you do. So you learn that they have suggestions because they've been there. They're right there doing the job, and they know, they've experienced these things. So they're able to tell you, well, this is the way I did it, or this is where I got help. And that was just so comforting to know that you could go somewhere and have this conversation with other people, get their support. It's a place where you can cry, you can laugh as well, where you can find joy in your caregiving, and it just helps you go on. And so after my husband died, I became interested in going to these support groups and becoming a part of them. So I helped to co-facilitate a support group in my hometown of Brown City, Michigan. And it was just something that I felt was so important to people that you just have to do this job.
Well, I tell you, I wish I went through the same thing, Pat, and I didn't have a support group to go to. My husband was very sick for 2.5 years, and I was outreach supervisor at the senior center, and then I would go home, take care of him. It was like just back and forth, and he was in and out of rehabs, and so believe it or not, in all that time period, there was only one day that I missed a visit, and that was because of a snowstorm with him. But I can understand my life changed. My habits of going out with my girlfriends and having girly times lessened. My Mary's routine,
Yes.
My artwork just went down the tubes, so my life changed, and so I think this is wonderful. This is wonderful, that's for sure. And because I think of if I had somebody to say, Mary, why don't I come in and stay with David that night and you go out to a movie with a girlfriend or something? But I didn't have that. And I didn't have family around me at that point either. So it does make a difference. It does make a difference. And I think, just what you said, that it's very hard to ask for help. Yes. Because you think you can do it. Yeah. Because I know you're a very caring personality, and it's your natural self, and so are you, Joyce, and so am I. And so what do? We give and give and give without realizing, okay, now stop. Now you got to go out to a movie.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Most caregivers that I've met over the years, they do put themselves in the back burner. They figure that their loved one is the most important, and unfortunately sometimes that means the caregiver's health suffers themselves. So Pat shared, just in a lovely manner her story, and as she was speaking, I'm thinking that the benefit of a caregiver group like this, I hope, is that we can catch people earlier than Pat was able to
That's one of the problems.
get associated with the group, because it sounds like in your story, Pat, you didn't really connect until after your husband was in a long-term care facility, and our intention, as we've talked before, is to try to get caregivers early. And I think it's really important that we do get caregivers early in their caregiver journey, because that's where the reports are from individuals that attend caregiver support groups, is that they do get a lot of support, some great resources. People understand the plight that they're under, And we want to catch people, like I said, very early, so we can ease up on some of their caregiver stress and increase their coping skills and make sure that those resources are available to them as early as they need them.
Well as what Joyce said too, if you attend a support group and it not only benefits you, but it benefits your loved one. Because now you have some tools in your toolbox to help you navigate. It's less stressful for the person you're taking care of if you're relaxed and you know what you're doing. It's power over the disease or
That's a
the
good way of putting it.
situation. You're empowered now and you can do the job and you're stronger. And I think that through support groups you find out that if you know what you're doing, you can ease the amount of medication that your loved one takes because you understand behavior. And you have a means of trying to figure out what caused that behavior and how to change it. And I think with Alzheimer's, they say if you take a step into the Alzheimer's world, and if you think, as well as general caregiving, if you think about the reason why your loved one acts the way they do, if you can step into their shoes, caregiving becomes easier because you understand that the anger that they when they lash out at you, that it's not you, it's
fear.
because it's fear.
A lot of it is fear and control.
And
Being in
anxiety.
control and anxiety.
And they're afraid. And so if you can realize that, it makes the job a lot easier. And if your loved one is relaxed and comfortable, then maybe they're not using as much medication as they would have to use if they were anxious and jittery and wandering or impatient. That all helps.
Wow, I'm so happy that you're doing this because it's needed. Life is changing out there, and people are at home now instead of going to rehabs, and that's getting more common because what they're doing is they're bringing in help from different agencies. One feeds the other. It does, and of course people prefer to be at home.
Right.
People prefer to be at home, and of course that's right.
But you're right, people are being discharged earlier and earlier throughout my career. I realize that now. People used to stay months and months at rehab, now they're going home earlier. And what does that mean? It means the caregiver, family caregiver or friend or neighbor who also are caregivers, so I hope people can identify themselves. And I want to back up just to say we're talking about caregivers that are partners and siblings and neighbors as well, and long-distance caregivers count too as caregivers, and many times people don't even identify themselves as a caregiver, so we want to make sure that we say that here today, that you could be a spouse, you could be a sibling, you could be a neighbor.
Well, tell me something. Let's say if, is this for the younger people too? If they're, taking care of a sick child? Or is it mostly just, this is for seniors?
Right, it's really for caregivers, family caregivers, friends, as I said, neighbors and such that are taking care of an older adult.
An older adult.
An older adult,
okay.
And the caregiver really should be an adult themselves to attend this support group. That's really how
Because when you
we're
think of the
modeling this.
caregivers who are trying to keep their jobs,
Yes.
and then taking care of mom or dad, or a sister or brother.
It's a huge issue. That balancing of the home and the work and the community is
Yes,
really
and how
challenging.
wonderful to feel, oh, my group, they can help me. And as I said, calling somebody to gain confidence and to be at peace. And it's so important to share. Sharing is so important. So important indeed.
I'd like to add to what Joyce said. We're talking about adults here. So I think if you're a caregiver for someone who is in their 30s, I think that's still okay to come. It's open to men and women, both. It's open to long-distance caregivers. Many times some of your family members are a distance away. Some people who come to caregiving support groups will say, well, I'm the only one that does this job. I have a brother and a sister who live near my mom and dad, but I travel 1,500 miles or 600 miles or what to go there when my siblings are there and they could help. Well, sometimes those siblings have issues of their own. Many of them, they're working families. Some of them don't know how to care for a loved one. They don't have that ability. Right. But through caregiving, support groups, you find that there is a way for the family to work together. Maybe one member of the family is better at doing bills, another member of the family is better at keeping doctor's appointments. So you learn to work together, and members of the group can help you with that. They can tell you of their experiences and how they dealt with it. As far as, I think Joyce and I had this conversation about dealing with younger people, perhaps children of loved ones. It is possible there are meetings, there are support groups for younger children.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But not at this support group meeting that we're having. And I want to add too, it's not just for the seniors that belong to the senior center, it's for the Hopkinton community.
It's really for the
Anyone in the community. If you're a fireman or a policeman or you work at the Price Chopper or whatever, you're all welcome. And we hope that you will come and join us.
Because they're caregivers too, when you think of the
Yes.
firemen and the policemen.
Exactly.
You know, and so this is a good way of learning. So it's
Yes.
a community project, really.
We hope it is. There
It
are
is.
some communities that are dementia-friendly communities.
Yes.
That would be a wonderful thing, but maybe just having a support group can be the beginning of that.
I see.
good start.
Yes.
A good start
good
for
start.
that.
Yes. Now, are you two teaching this, or are you going to be having people come in, maybe from Bay Path Elder Care Services, or you're going to have different speakers, or?
Well, since this is really a starting point for us, we're going to really take leads of the people that are in the group. So
Good.
we have a general idea of how we're going to be structuring the group, but we're really going to be speaking and listening to the caregivers that come through our support group and see what they need. And then we'll be tailoring the group toward that. We probably will have some intermittent speakers that come through. But I think the most important thing is we're really servicing the people that are there and maybe picking a simple topic. There's lots of ways to develop it, but so we have a good groundwork, but we really want to listen to the group members that come through and start off sort of with what they have to tell us and what they think they need from us as co-facilitators to this group. Because even though I like to use the term co-facilitator or leader fairly loosely because we're really guiding the group, but we're really sitting back and letting the group really
Help
support
each other.
and help each other.
Everybody's teaching.
That's right. We're
They
not the
will be.
leaders. We're not
That's
the.
right.
I mean, in many ways, we're not the experts. We don't
That's
have
right.
the answers. That's not why we're in this
That's
group.
right.
We're really here.
And
to
we
be
learn
support.
from each other.
Absolutely.
And, that's part of what it's all about.
That's right.
Caring.
I think we also hope that the group will be comfortable with each other and that they will feel like they're family. And hopefully they'll be able to do things outside of the support group. Maybe go to dinner, go have coffee.
That's right.
Help each other out in some ways.
Maybe even bring the senior to the senior center.
Absolutely. If they
Yes.
have never been,
I mean,
we
have
hope to be able
lunch.
to do that.
Wonderful programs that they have.
Absolutely.
And, exercise and, it's a growth experience.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
It's an important thing for someone with dementia to be the person that they are. Even though they can't remember, they have cognitive problems, the person is still inside of them.
That's right. I was going to say that.
Yes, and you hear stories from people who talk about their dementia. They want you to know that they're still there and that they don't want to be treated any differently because they have dementia. They want to be able to do the things that they can still do.
It's important.
It's important. They want to be able to socialize. They still want to do these things. They don't want you talking about them in their presence. They
That's
don't want
right.
you treating
That's
them like a
right.
child.
That's right.
And in the support group, this is where we're going to learn the methods to do this.
And coming up to the senior center too, they may find something to do, like our knitters. Maybe there's a woman who has a little problem and being cared for and coming up and knit, just, and we have a painting group. And then of course we have the pool room.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if you have dementia or not.
That's right. We're a dementia-friendly community. All people come through the senior
That's
center.
right. That's right. And the movies that you people have, and And just sitting there in the front of the senior center with the fireplace going. You know, when somebody's at home, it's almost like going to your next home, the senior center. And so many people consider the senior center home.
Second
They
home.
say it's my
Yes.
second home,
Yeah.
Mary. It's my second. I don't know how many times I've heard that. You know, and because
do
the
too.
smiles greet you, and the relationships that are there, and it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. Oh, I'm telling you. Is there anything else you would like to add, or?
Well, I think we want to mention that on Tuesday, March 21st, we had a speaker called, her name Denise Thomas, who came to the Senior Center and gave a talk about how to have conversations with your loved one, with your family members. And that was the beginning of our support group. We wanted to have a speaker to come and talk, and it was kind of like a kickoff for what was to come. So we're
Wonderful.
really excited, and we really hope that the community will take advantage of what we have to offer.
I hope so. I hope so, because we all need it. I mean, you know, we're all human. We're all human.
If we have a stress-free caregiver, we have a stress-free person that we're taking care of.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And you know, it's just a beautiful experience of growth. You know, and it's just wonderful. Okay, so your caregiver support group is April 20th from 10:30 to 11:30. Now, do they have to call the senior center? And
I recommend calling the senior center to register.
okay, that's 508-497-9730.
Thank you, Mary. But we sure will welcome anyone. And we also want people to know that we will have respite care for their loved one, because it's sometimes very difficult for a caregiver to get away because they're taking care of their loved one.
That's right.
So if someone wants to come to the support group, please call me at the senior center, and we'll arrange for someone to be with their loved one at the senior center. We can't do anything within their own personal home, but at the senior center, we'll make sure that we have some supervision for that hour so the caregiver can sit in the support group. So just call me and we'll talk
now,
about
tell me
that.
something. Do you still have the medical rides if somebody needs a medical ride?
Absolutely.
See,
Someone
that's
could get a ride to
wonderful and
come
supportive
here.
right
Yeah,
there. So your people have
absolutely.
began already. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else?
I'll just mention a couple statistics which I think are fairly profound. 34 million unpaid caregivers in the United States care for someone over the age of 18. And in Massachusetts alone, there's about 800,000 unpaid caregivers. And I'm not talking about professionals in a nursing home, assisted living, the ones that come to your home and so forth, but those numbers are fairly staggering when you hear them, and that's an AARP pretty trusted
See,
site.
people are living longer.
Yeah.
And, you know, so caregiving is probably going to increase, right?
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Absolutely.
And of course, these people, many of them, some of them are retirees, but
Right.
many of them hold jobs and
Yep.
work.
A lot of people
In
are still
addition
working.
to
Because
caring.
people are working longer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, see, 70 is what 60 used to be, I think.
Exactly.
I really do believe that.
A lot
in
of
my
people
heart.
are working full time into their 60s and their 70s, and they may have a parent that they're taking care of in their 90s
Oh,
because they're living into their 90s, which is
Yes.
great.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
I
yes.
think another thing I'd like to add is in caregiving, it's important to know that your financial and legal papers are in order. And this is something else that will probably come up in discussion with caregivers on how they went about doing that. It's important to do it as soon as you can, because in order to qualify for Medicaid, they go back 5 years. And so you want to get all of that taken care of. And so that's another thing that's really important, and I'm sure that the group can help with.
Okay, okay. I want to thank you, Joyce and Pat.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for having us.
Oh, listen,
We're
it's been
excited.
our joy, hasn't it been? And it gives us hope, and it gives us a feeling of, I have a place to go. So call Joyce or Pat at the Senior Center and discuss this if you need to do that first, and make it, and tell them you're coming up. That's going to be good news, okay? So thank you for watching, and you have a good night. Welcome to the Senior View. And today we have some very special guests who do some very special work.
We've done a lot of charity quilts. We've done quilts for veterans. We've done quilts for the Serenity House.
So we try to figure out what are your goals, what's your time frame, what's your motivation for moving, what's the situation with the house.
I love to be beside the sun, beside the sea, beside the seaside, by the beautiful sea.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Peralt, host of the program Meet Your Neighbor on HCAM TV.
Kids got so much on their plate, and they're traveling here and they're traveling there.
You know, they still need help from time to time.
My father always was outdoors. I mean, he grew up, he had pet baby squirrels.
This show introduces you to Hopkinton residents, the many interesting people who are our neighbors, and we invite them to share stories, experiences, insights, and observations from their lives.
Welcome to Hopkinton Coffee Break.
A very special dessert done by a woman from Hopkinton that I've started using regularly.
We had your residents participating both as vendors and as shoppers, and that was so much fun.
Real Hopkinton Housewives, if you're on Facebook, you will have a blast. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.